Hello, hello, hello. Okay, I'm so happy to be hanging out with you guys today. Um, as some of you know, I've been making this sort of a weekly series of popping in here and sharing just some of the work that I do around changing your relationship with food, right? About um, starting to learn new techniques and strategies to break the old habits and patterns around food. If you're joining me live for the first time, my name is Sarah Best, and I am a nutritionist, but people like to joke that I'm the nutritionist who never talks about food. And that's because my approach is a little bit different. I used to do all the old things that I thought a nutritionist would do when I first graduated. I made meal plans for people, and I created weight loss programs, and I worked with people on allergies and gut health and all of those things. And it was all fantastic. But what I started to see was a pattern, and it was a pattern that had been true for me personally as well. So it really clicked with me. And that was that people would do really well on whatever plan I gave them for a little while. They'd be really committed, and they'd be all in, and they'd be excited, and they'd start seeing success. And then life would get in the way, right? Things would get busy at work. Schedules with kids would just become overwhelming. They would get tired. They would come down with something, and they would just fall back into their old habits and patterns. And there was this feeling of like taking one step forward and two steps back. And boy, do I remember this from my own sort of unhealthy struggles with food that I went through for many years, where I was doing a lot of binge eating at night and a lot of emotional eating and feeling really powerless. Like I just wanted to stop so badly, but I just couldn't, or I could do it for a little while and then I would fall back into my old ways. And so when I started to see my clients go through exactly what I had gone through, I thought there's something else going on here, because it can't just be about the food. It can't just be about finding the right recipes, the right meal plan, because why did I know that? Because I had become a nutritionist to try and learn all of those things for myself so that I would finally be free. And yet I was still falling into the same old habits and patterns. I was still binge eating. I was still eating my feelings. I was still turning to food when I was stressed or tired or feeling overwhelmed. It was always my go-to. And that was after I'd become a nutritionist. So I did know all the right things to be eating. I did have access to millions of recipes. I did know exactly the right meal plans to be following. And yet I was still doing this, taking one step forward and then two steps back. And I was never really changing my relationship with food. So long story short, I changed my whole practice and I became obsessed with learning about what it is that makes us do that. Why do we keep falling into those old habits and patterns? If it's not about the food, what is it about? How does the brain actually respond to food? How do things like dopamine work in the brain? How do we form habits around food? And how do we change those, right? Why do we eat when we're tired? Why do we eat when we're stressed? Why do we eat when we're happy? All of these things became like my obsession. And I started learning everything I could about food psychology and neuroscience, and also sort of the deeper, what I consider to be really spiritual work around what are we seeking when we're turning to food? What are we really seeking? And how can we address those things in a way, those needs in a way that doesn't involve carbs, right? Sugar. So that's what I do now. And I'm glad that you're joining me. And today I really want to talk about eating your feelings, right? As I was just mentioning, it's something that so many of my clients talk to me about. It's something that I hear time and time again in my Facebook group, which is called Conquer the Food Fight. If you're not there already, we would love to have you come join us. You can just search Conquer the Food Fight on Facebook and come join us. It's an amazing community over there of people that are also really get this struggle of feeling like they know what they should be eating for the most part. I mean, we still have questions and there's always learning to be done, but that's not really what's keeping them stuck. What's keeping them stuck is what's going on up here, right? They keep sabotaging themselves, even though they know better. And that's what we work on over there. So today I want to dive into eating your feelings, because as I said, it's something I hear about so often. And I want to share with you 4 things that you can think about when you're trying to navigate feelings like stress, boredom, burnout, just feeling tired and exhausted at the end of the day, right? How do we navigate these feelings? Because we're not going to go live in an ashram in Tibet, right? We're going to still live in our lives, and we're still going to have our jobs and our families and stuff going on. And we're going to have stress, and we're going to be tired, and we're going to be bored sometimes. And all of these things are going to come up. And how do we navigate those in a way that doesn't involve turning to food? And it's not that I'm against food. I love food. In fact, I still enjoy chocolate and all the things I always did. But it's about changing your relationship with those things so that you can enjoy chocolate or potato chips or pizza or whatever it is in a way that is mindful and meaningful, and not as a way to try and numb or avoid uncomfortable feelings, because that's when we get into trouble, right? That's when we start going off the rails. That's when we really sabotage ourselves. And also, it doesn't really work. Yes, I know it works in the moment, right? It feels great to hit the couch and turn on that Netflix and just start shoveling potato chips in your mouth. I've been there. And I know that it feels good in the moment, and it feels like you're giving yourself a treat, and it feels like I deserve this. But it's still, at a deeper level, it's not actually addressing the real root problem, right? I always say you're trying to put like a food-shaped peg into like a self-care hole, right? Like they don't fit. What you need is not potato chips, right? What you need is something, I would argue, something deeper. And so I want to talk about that a little bit today. What I want to share with you 4 things you can think about when you know that you are eating your feelings or about to use food to try and avoid your feelings, okay? The first is to identify the feeling, right? So often we're just trying to get away from the feeling. We're just trying to, I feel something, and so I don't want to feel it. And again, we might not be doing this consciously, but when you're kind of pawing through the cupboards or the freezer or the fridge, kind of, you get that, I just need a little something, that's usually because you're feeling something that you don't want to feel anymore. And so you just need a little something to take the edge off, to get rid of that, right? Maybe it's wine, maybe it's ice cream, maybe it's potato chips, but you're looking for a little something. And so first, it's so important that we become mindful and aware and really identify what am I actually feeling? And again, sometimes this is very obvious. Sometimes we think, oh, I'm super stressed. I'm completely stressed out about this thing that's going on at work, or about something with my kids or my partner or whatever. And I know darn well I'm stressed out and I want ice cream. And so that's fine. You identify what the feeling is. So you're feeling stressed, you're feeling worried, maybe you're feeling anxious, you're feeling out of control, like you don't have control over the situation. You're feeling scared, you're feeling unheard, you're feeling unappreciated. Try and get clear on what that feeling is. So again, sometimes we know, sometimes we don't know. Sometimes, like I say, we're doing that, I just feel like I need a little something, or I just really want ice cream, right? Or, and so sometimes we're not clear, we don't connect those dots yet on the feeling. So, for example, if it's that I just really want ice cream, I'm not feeling anything, I just really want ice cream, then fine, go and have maybe 3 bites of ice cream, because what we know, if you study food psychology and the way your taste buds and brain receptors actually talk to each other, there's a diminishing return on taste. So the first few bites taste fantastic, and then it very quickly plateaus and goes back down, right? So first few bites, fantastic, and then plateaus and then goes down. And then you spend the rest of the ice cream bowl or ice cream container just trying to get back the thrill of those first 3 bites. So if what you really want is ice cream, again, I'm not opposed to ice cream. I love ice cream too. Have 3 bites, and that should satisfy that. If it doesn't, if you still feel like you need a little something, then we know you are trying to use ice cream for something other than just enjoying ice cream, right? You're trying to fill a hole. You're trying to fill something with the ice cream that the ice cream is not going to fill. So then we need to start getting curious about what is it? What is the feeling? Identify the feeling, right? A question that I love to use with my students is ask yourself, how am I hoping this food will make me feel? Sometimes that can really be helpful. How am I hoping this food will make me feel? And again, be open to whatever answer comes up here. It might seem odd what jumps into your head, but don't censor yourself. let whatever's going to come. This is how you're going to start to learn and better understand your relationship with food, how you're using food. So be open to that. Another way to come at this, if you're struggling with it, is imagine you couldn't have the food. Imagine there's no ice cream on the face of the planet. There's no ice cream in your house. Every store is closed. No one in your neighborhood has ice cream. You can't call your sister and ask her to bring ice cream over. Like, there's no ice cream. Usually what that will do is cause your brain to have a little temper tantrum. And sometimes in that temper tantrum, your brain will reveal, expose how it was hoping the food would make it feel. So use some of these tools and tactics to see if you can identify what the feeling that you're feeling, okay? Because it's important that we separate that from you, right? That you name it, and then you can deal with it. When it's inside you, when it's just you, it's hard to manage and deal with and challenge. But if you can identify it, give it a name, it suddenly separates you from the feeling, and then you can work with it, excuse me. So that's the first thing. Identify the feeling, name it, give it a name. What are you feeling beyond just, I want ice cream? The second thing I want you to do is sit with it. Okay. So again, our what we're trying to do here is use food to avoid the feeling. If you can get to a place in your life where you can just sit with the feeling, where you can just feel stressed or worried or afraid or hurt or unappreciated or out of control, and you can just sit with that and breathe through it, you will have tapped into a superpower, my friend, that will not only serve you in your relationship with food, but in every other aspect of your life. Think of all the things we do in our lives to avoid or change feelings. If we could just sit with uncomfortable feelings, we would be like, it's like a superpower, right? Because suddenly you're not using food to avoid them. You're not people pleasing to try and avoid uncomfortable feelings. You're not shopping for things you don't need. You're not spending hours of scrolling through social media and numbing things, right? You're all of those buffering activities we use to try and manage uncomfortable feelings, you're free of. So again, I'm not saying it's easy, because everything in your brain, just like pulling your hand away from a hot stove, everything in your brain is telling you to run away from this feeling because it's uncomfortable. So this takes time. It takes patience. It's a practice. You get better and better at it as you practice it. But I want you to start to practice just sitting with the feeling. I sometimes suggest to my students that they use like a delayed gratification exercise with this. So if you want the ice cream and there's an icky feeling that you're trying to use the ice cream to avoid, instead of saying, I'm not going to have the ice cream, which can feel like too much, tell yourself you're going to have the ice cream, but you're going to have it like in 10 minutes, and set a timer like on your phone. And then I want you to just sit with the feeling for 10 minutes, whether that's just breathing through it, whether it's going for a walk with no music or anything, just your thoughts. Like, I want you to be with the feeling. I don't want you to distract yourself too much. Whether it's journaling, just writing stuff down, getting it out, sit with that for 10 minutes. Just be with the feeling. It's okay. It's just a feeling. It's just energy. And then when the timer goes off, go have your ice cream, right? You will have done some important work to reprogram and rewire some of those old relationships with food, but you won't totally freak your brain out by saying it can't have ice cream. So try that. Just sit with the feeling, okay? Third, I want you to do something that will actually address that feeling, okay? So remember how I said at the beginning that we're trying to use food, we're trying to put a food-shaped peg into a feeling-sized hole, right? And it doesn't work because they don't match. It doesn't fit. So what we need to do, since we have a feeling-sized hole, we need to do something that's going to address that actual feeling. So once you've identified the feeling as stress, or I'm bored, or I'm worried, or I'm afraid, or I'm just feeling anxious, or I'm feeling hurt, I want you to think about some things you could do that would actually address that. So if you're stressed, maybe it's just like a brain dump. Maybe it's just, you just need to write down. If you're just feeling like overwhelmed and stressed about having so many balls in the air, whether it's at work or in your home life or both, sometimes just a brain dump, like just write down everything from the important to the like ridiculous, right? Like just all those things that are rattling around that are stressing you out, just get it all out on paper, just dump it out. That can be a more effective solution or behavior for dealing with stress than eating ice cream. Maybe it's laughing. Maybe you just need to like watch a funny movie, or just put on like the funniest stand-up comedy thing on Netflix that you can watch and just laugh. That can like change your state like that, right? Maybe it's sleep. Like a lot of times we're just tired, right? And we're just using food, especially if you're nighttime snacking, we're just tired. And so we're just not, our sleep quality isn't great. We're not getting enough sleep. So maybe you need to go to bed at 7:30 at night, right? Sometimes, and that can be okay. That can be the most beautiful act of self-care, right? Telling your family, I have had dinner, wash the dishes, I'm going to bed. Everyone be quiet, right? Like maybe that's what you need to do. Maybe you need to move, right? Maybe you need to get down on the ground and just do some gentle stretching. Maybe you want to play with your dog. Maybe you just need to go for a walk, right? Maybe you need to go for a run. Like sometimes moving your body can move the energy of feelings through as well. Maybe you need to share. Maybe you need to talk, right? Sometimes, especially as women, we think through things as we talk about them, right? Men do this less, but sometimes we just need to talk things through. So maybe you just need to call a friend and be like, I don't need you to fix anything here for me, but can I just talk this out for the next 15 minutes? I just got to get some stuff out. Sometimes that can be really helpful. Or maybe talk to your partner, or just sharing. Sometimes that can really help. Again, especially as women, we tend to work through our feelings sometimes by speaking. So sometimes you just need to share. So think about what you can do. And the best way to do this, best way to set this up for yourself for success, is to think about these doing actions that will actually address the feeling ahead of time, right? So I'm a big fan of having a plan before you get to the craving, right? So again, I know a lot of people struggle with nighttime eating. If you haven't picked up the nighttime snacking solution, make sure you get a copy of that. It's over on my website under the free tools, sarahbest.com. So head over there, go to the free tools section. You'll find the nighttime snacking solution. It's totally free. Download it. I created it because so many people ask me about nighttime snacking. So if you know that nighttime is your trigger, the cue for your habit to binge, which used to be mine, you don't want to wait until nighttime to try and make a better choice. You're going to lose that battle 9 times out of 10. So a better approach is to be aware of those cues and think about, you'll start to know, especially as you just follow these tips I've even given you today, you'll start to see patterns and themes for yourself, right? Like what kind of feelings are coming up again and again that are driving you to eat. In advance, create a plan, knowing that your cue is nighttime, knowing that the feeling that comes up for you is overwhelm. Okay, let's use that as an example. And then you end up going to the snacks. Knowing that in advance, figure out what you're going to do instead. Okay, so I know that, so at 9 o'clock, put the kids to bed. That's when my show is on. That's when I go and get the ice cream and I end up eating the whole thing. What can I do at 9 o'clock, knowing that about myself? What can I do instead that is going to more effectively address the fact that I'm tired and stressed? So think about what those behaviors could be for you, right? Again, whether it's going to be moving your body, sharing, doing brain dump, just reading and getting lost in a great novel, listening to music, putting on headphones and just maybe I do this sometimes, just turn the lights out and I just listen, just immerse myself in some beautiful music. What's going to really address that feeling of stress and overwhelm? Because the ice cream isn't, right? Yes, it's going to give you a little dopamine high, of course, and you're going to feel like you're having a little treat, but then you're just going to feel crappy about yourself. It's not actually going to deal with the stress, and you're just going to be in this horrible cycle. You know exactly what I'm talking about, right? So create a plan around what you can do in the moment that will actually address that feeling, okay? And then finally, number 4 is get ahead of it, okay, as much as you can. And what I mean by get ahead of it is self-care, okay? And I know self-care is a very trendy buzzword these days, but it's a real thing, because here's the problem. When we're ending every day exhausted and depleted, it's always going to be challenging. Yes, you identify the feeling, you put a plan in place, all of those things to deal with it better at night. But ideally, you would get ahead of it and create specific and self-care activities for yourself, and you would prioritize those so that you're not ending every day exhausted and depleted, right? Ideally, that would really be the best case scenario. And I know that people don't have time and all the things, but if you really want to change this pattern for yourself, I encourage you to think about how you can incorporate more self-care into your daily routine, into your weekly routine. Make it a priority, like a non-negotiable priority, like showering, right? Does anybody say they don't have time for showering? No. And why is that? Not because it doesn't take time, but because we've just decided that it's a non-negotiable priority. Nobody says, I love the idea of showering and I really admire other people who shower and I can see the benefits of it. I know it would help me. I just don't have time to shower. Nobody says that, right? Because we've just made it a non-negotiable priority in our minds. So we say to the kids, sorry, you got to watch TV for 15 minutes. Mom has to take a shower. Or we tell people, sorry, I'm running late. I'm going to be a little bit late. I got to jump in the shower, right? We do that because it's a priority. You wouldn't not, right? I'm sorry, but self-care needs to be that same level. And again, self-care can take the same amount of time as showering. You can do self-care in 15, 20 minutes. You really can. Would it be better to do longer? Sure. But 15, 20 minutes is great. If you can spend 15, 20 minutes a day or 5 days a week meditating, visualizing, journaling, right? Just 20 minutes doing those things, you are going to change your life. And it needs to be that kind of a priority, because what's going to happen then is you're going to be filling your cup throughout the week, right? Every day. And so you're not going to end up every night exhausted, depleted, overwhelmed on the couch in that really vulnerable state. So getting ahead of it is important. Okay, so those are the 4 things I wanted to share with you today about what to do, how to navigate those feelings like stress, boredom, overwhelm, burnout, without turning to snacks. So first, identify the feeling. What is it that you're really feeling that you're trying to use the food for? Second, see if you can sit with it. And if you need to just set your timer on your phone or whatever for 5 or 10 minutes to feel it, to sit with it, and then go to the food, that's fine too. That's fine. That's a great way to baby step your way into this. But we need to be able to start feeling the feelings. You're going to feel uncomfortable feelings because you are a human and you are alive. So this is it. This is the party. We need to be able to feel those feelings, not just in your relationship with food, but in everything. Again, this will be a superpower for you if you can master this. And it takes practice. This is a lifelong practice. We're all working on this, me included. But it is a valuable and powerful and life-changing practice. Third, do something that will actually effectively address that feeling you're feeling. And it is not food. Spoiler alert, right? It is something like sleeping or laughing or moving or sharing or a brain dump. That is going to be more effective. And if you can plan that ahead of time, even better, so that you can just go to that when you feel those cravings. And then finally, do what you can to get ahead of it, right? And what I mean by this is self-care. Where can you fit some self-care into your week? And self-care does not need to be like a spa day. In fact, I don't think I love spa days, don't get me wrong, but I don't think that's an effective form of self-care. Self-care needs to be things that fill your cup, that make you feel connected, aligned to your highest self, to people that love you, to something greater than yourself, right? To me, self-care is all about connection. And so what are the activities? They're going to be different for you than they are for me. What are the activities that make you feel most deeply connected to that truest part of yourself, and to the people that love you, to something greater than yourself, whatever that means for you? So think about those 4 things, okay? And that's going to help you navigate those feelings instead of turning to food, because those feelings are going anywhere, right? Again, you are human, you are alive, the feelings are going to be there. How can we navigate them instead of using food? Because food is not going to be an effective way to deal with them. And it just puts us in that spiral of hating ourselves more and sabotaging ourselves and not even addressing the real issue. So it's not an effective strategy. We need to come up with a better one. So I hope this was helpful. Let me know if this feels good to you, if you think you can incorporate some of these things in your life, where you think you're going to start. I want to know, right? It's useful to listen to these things, but only if you're going to implement them. So what was like an aha? Did I say anything today that sort of set off a light bulb for you? And where will you start? That's what I want to know. Okay. Have a great rest of your day, you guys. And I will talk to you soon.